I want to tell you about my friend Phil. Phil is many things. Designer, artist, tastemaker, but most notably, Dertbag. No, not like that, with an E instead of an I. Dertbag is Phil's clothing and lifestyle brand that he started when we were in middle school back in 2007. My closet overfloweth with Dertbag, and for good reason, as I wear it nearly every day. I get more compliments on my Dertbag clothes than anything else. But Dertbag isn't just a brand, it's an extension of Phil himself. Since he first silkscreened shirts in his basement back in 2007, Phil's invested himself fully into Dertbag. Before his 21st birthday, Phil was designing collections for Kanye West and Adidas Calabasas, doing ad-libs on Mac Miller tracks.
Don't I look so handsome in these polo jeans?
And building an audience that wanted to see not only what he was doing, but what he'd do next. And the whole time Phil worked, I watched fascinated. I met Phil at a generally difficult time in my otherwise quite privileged life. I was navigating the aftermath of my parents' divorce, my dad coming out, and I just switched schools from an easy public school into a rigorously demanding private school, Greens Farms Academy. It's where I met Phil. He was one of the only other kids that lived close to me, and one day he invited me over to hang out. I had no idea at the time, but I was going to be making a friend that would dramatically alter the course of my life. I don't really say that with hyperbole. I mean, look at me, I'm surrounded by Dertbag. Phil was someone that knew who he wanted to be and what he thought was cool. He didn't follow trends, he just liked what he liked. As someone that was really having a hard time figuring out what my identity was, what I wanted to do, how to dress, it was a presence that I really needed and something that really shaped the person I'd end up becoming. When I told Phil I'd been in a bit of a creative rut since I'd moved down to DC, he told me I should stop by the store and film something. So that's exactly what I did. I stopped by Dertbag and I filmed something. From Washington, D.C., it's a quick 5-hour Amtrak ride up to visit Phil at his atelier in downtown Bridgeport. His shop is right in the heart of downtown Bridgeport, so it was easy enough to get me from the train before we headed home for the night to spend some time with his mom while his dad Frank attended an opening at an art gallery showing some of his paintings. As we sat down to catch up, one of the first things Phil's mom Meredith brought up was the time I stayed with them for a few days during a snowstorm. We spent days just hanging out together in the living room, watching movies, playing games. Frank kept the generator going when he could, and Meredith baked chocolate chip cookies. It was the type of warm, cozy family feeling I yearned for after my parents' divorce. After some small talk, Meredith told me she always felt like I was a second son, and I felt that same warmth again. I had one of her freshly baked chocolate chip cookies and went into Phil's bedroom to continue my trip down memory lane. Phil's bedroom is nearly unchanged from when I used to visit as a kid. A few more containers of weed and more of his art is the only difference that jumps out. I'd spend hours here, just sitting on a stool next to Phil, staring over his shoulder while he'd be on his computer, browsing the internet. Phil has this knack for finding a vein just before it's about to burst. One day he's showing me Tyler the Creator's first major single, French, the day it came out. The next he's showing me Tyler the Creator wearing his clothes at concerts. This was not an isolated incident. Whether it was music, fashion, skateboarding, Phil was a compass that pointed towards cool. And as I followed his arrow, I found my own way. We hung out for a bit in Phil's bedroom, catching up and going through the stuff Phil has collected in the years since I was last there. We looked through his journals and Polaroids of his unreleased Adidas Calabasas collection. He asked me what size shoe I was and brought me a pair of brand new size 10 Clarks. It felt like nothing had changed in the 10 years or so since I had last been at his house. Meredith's conversation with me about being like a second son made me realize that Phil is the older brother I had always wanted. The stickers on the door, the clothes he wore, the music he listened to, the hand-me-downs. He's someone I just want to be around, even if it means my role is to sit back, shut up, and watch. So that was the plan for the next day. Shut up and watch Phil work on a busy Friday. We set out from the house around 10:30, stopping by his local supermarket to pick up some wipes for his silk screens and a few snacks. A quick drive to Westport saw us drop off some packages at the post office and grab some challah French toast at the granola bar to fuel up for the day ahead. We drove past Greens Farms Academy, the place where we first met as 7th graders in 2007, before stopping at nearby Southport Beach to take a second to reflect before a hectic day.
We made our way to Bridgeport, Connecticut's biggest city. Located inside the historic Arcade Mall, Connecticut's first and oldest indoor mall, is the Dertbag Atelier. It's a beautiful space right in the heart of downtown Bridgeport. Last summer, Phil celebrated the Atelier's 10-year anniversary. It's crazy to think that he's been doing this for more than a decade. We haven't even lived 3 yet. After opening up the shop, we took some time to move stuff to a new studio space Phil just got, a place of his own. In many ways, the shop isn't for Phil, it's for everyone. Phil has an acrostic you'll see on a lot of his clothes.
If there is one thing that I would tell someone that didn't know what Dertbag is divine energy radiates through beauty and genius.
And the store is the best example of that. In the 2 days I spent at the shop, multiple people were there hanging out and working on their own creative projects. The shop is a space where people can do with Phil what I had the privilege to do as a kid. Learn more about yourself by observing how Phil operates. It was really cool to see how Phil uses his space to allow others to grow. He's a real community leader, and it was really awesome to see that in person. The studio represents a new chapter for Phil, a place where he can go to be alone, to focus on what he wants to make, and a space really just for him. It'll be really exciting to see what comes out of this space and all the different ways that Phil will utilize it. I'm excited for him. After chowing down on some empanadas from a nearby Colombian spot, Phil brought some samples to his seamstress, just a short walk away. He's starting doing more cut and sew pieces the last few years, and it's the incredibly talented people here that make that work possible. He's immensely proud of the fact that he's producing these clothes in Bridgeport. It's another way Phil is radiating energy back into the community. It was really cool to see all the material and effort that goes into not just Phil's garments, but the other things they make, like figure skating outfits or cheerleading uniforms. Their workshop is right next to a sneaker and vintage store called Dre's World that Phil said I had to check out. He knows me too well, and we spent some time admiring sneakers and combing through the thrift bins. I bought a Michael Jordan Bullets jersey to wear back in DC for an absolute bargain of $30. We headed back to the shop, and Phil got a text from a friend that he'd be in a studio nearby recording for a little. We headed over, and I got to experience what being in a studio is like. To no surprise, Groovy Casanova was rocking Dertbag and made it clear.
I was in love and war, but she riding to the core. I rock Dertbag, not Dior.
It was awesome to watch the process and seeing all the different vocal tracks mesh to make a song out of what was 15 minutes ago just one of Phil's beats. After heading back to the shop and locking up, we headed home right as it started storming and grabbed a well-earned burger and fries.
On shore. You don't really need
Yeah, run that back.
You don't really need nothing else.
The day wasn't over though, as Phil had gotten some packages when we got home. The first was from Nike and had 2 pairs of shoes, including an unreleased pair coming out later the next week. The second was one of Phil's pieces from the Adidas Calabasas collection that never got released. Phil presented 2 collections to Adidas execs and Ye that received really good feedback, only for everything to be scrapped and Phil fired the next day. He recently posted some photos of the collection to his Instagram, and when someone said they had one of the pieces, Phil reached out to buy it off him. 7 years after the whole thing went down, I get to watch Phil reunite with an artifact he thought lost to time.
It's crazy. I never thought I'd see the day.
The perfect bow to wrap the day. Phil's journey is a testament to the power of passion and perseverance. From silkscreen shirts in his basement to designing for major brands and building a community around his vision. Phil has shown that success isn't just about the talent, but also the energy you radiate.
In the time since seeing Phil, I started work that I'd been dragging my feet on. I started creating for myself instead of for others, and journaling and reading instead of scrolling. It's the type of impact that Phil has on people, and the reason that he's become such a pillar in the community within Bridgeport, Connecticut, and streetwear as a whole. When I was writing the script for this video, I started tearing up at one point because I just realized how much Phil really means to me and how much his friendship has really shaped my life. Here I am surrounded by a bunch of Phil's clothes, and it feels like even though I'm alone in this bedroom, sans this rotisserie chicken cleaning his asshole, that I've still got a friend with me. Happy 11-year anniversary, Phil. Go check out dirtbag.us to shop Phil's 11th anniversary collection and anything else he's got in stock. Be sure to stop by the store in Connecticut the next time you're there. And most importantly, thanks for listening. You can check out some of Phil's music, which has been playing throughout this video, on some of the sites that I've linked in the bio. Have a good one. You put a lot of love and yourself into Dertbag. In many ways, Dertbag is you, and you are Dertbag. I don't think I got much more than that, bud. I'm proud of you.
Thanks.
Love you, pal.
Yeah, I love you too, Seth.
All right, dude.
Gucci.
Yeah, think so.
Ciao.